Hello and welcome to episode 361 of Sutton Family Impact Style. I'm Jason.
I'm Bill. We're going to start off with a little NCAA March Madness, especially because I'm going to go to Boston on Thursday and Saturday for the games, and I'll get to see UConn, San Diego State, and Illinois, Iowa State.
Yeah, that's
So
4
I'm
9.
kind of excited about seeing them. And I actually saw UConn last year in Las Vegas, so I was impressed with them last year, and I'm much more impressed with them this year.
Oh,
But
yeah.
some interesting plays. I mean, Duquesne upsets BYU, which I think was, nobody saw that coming. So
No.
if you had that in your bracket, not that BYU was a world beater, but Duquesne kind of sucked.
Yes.
So that surprised me. If you had Oakland beating Kentucky, unless you're a Kentucky hater like you and I talked about, I didn't see that coming. I did see North Carolina State beating Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Because I thought Texas Tech was kind of overrated. And then I saw the North Carolina State-Oakland game was a really good game. Now they play Marquette. So that's a game that I'm going to circle. The North Carolina State-Marquette game I think is going to be a really, really good game.
Yes.
And I think Purdue-Gonzaga could be a really good game. And I think Creighton and Tennessee could be a really good game.
Well, especially because as of now, Purdue is considered the second most likely, according to Vegas, to win it all.
Yeah.
But they also have Houston as the third most likely, and I don't think I've seen enough from Houston, especially down the stretch lately, to make me think they're a title-winning team.
Houston's got a lot of athletes. Oof. But yeah, I think UConn's got the best shot at coming out of where they are.
Yeah, they have the best.
I picked North Carolina not to make it. In the two games I watched North Carolina play, I thought they looked really good.
I thought they looked outstanding. I mean, I saw that when I watched the highlights. I thought they looked really good.
Yeah. I watched Grand Canyon in Alabama, and Alabama only scored, I think, 70 points, and they were a team averaging over 90. I mean, Grand Canyon was a real hard team to play. They were kind of fun to watch.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun to see where this goes. I mean, if I'm sitting here now, I'm probably looking at UConn making the Final Four out of the East. I'm probably going to stick with North Carolina out of the West.
Okay.
I just don't believe in the Big Ten, so I'm not going to pick Purdue to go out of the Midwest.
No, I don't think so.
I have no idea who I could pick there.
The Midwest? Yeah, that's a tough one.
It's Purdue, Gonzaga, and Creighton in Tennessee.
Yeah, maybe Creighton.
Maybe Creighton.
Or maybe this is the year that Gonzaga finally breaks all the way through.
And then Duke has looked really good, but I don't think they are really good. So Duke and Houston, I mean, that's a lot of athletes versus not a lot of athletes, in my opinion. I mean, everybody picked JMU to upset Duke, and Duke killed them.
Yeah. I mean, there's still Duke. I mean, Duke is,
Yeah.
going back to, Duke has never really left the top of college basketball for the most part since I was a child, I would say.
I would agree with you 100%.
Like, more so than maybe any school in any program or in any sport.
Yeah.
I feel like they may have been the one. So I remember being a kid going to that store in Pittsburgh and, like, you could, besides all the Big East stuff, there was Duke stuff and North Carolina stuff. And the North Carolina definitely had more downs than ups, or more downs than Duke has had over the years, I would say.
Well, I'll tell you what, the game I'm most interested in is Marquette, North Carolina State.
Because you love North Carolina
Marquette
State.
got their point guard back.
Yeah.
And he's really legit. I mean, he's John Stockton legit. So I really like him. I really like what's the guy's name? Something Junior from number 30 from North Carolina State.
Yeah.
6'7", 280.
Yeah, and he's got that, like you said,
Both hands, lefty, righty. I like him a lot. That's my game to watch. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch.
Yeah. Well, they have a plus 10,000 chance of winning it all, according to Vegas. And I feel like, yeah, that seems like one of those ones, like, you hate to say it, but, like, NC State could be taken out by the refs, I think, maybe more than most of the other teams here. Just because that guy's so big and so physical, like...
I'll tell you, he got away with a lot of stuff. I mean, he was knocking people around like they weren't even there.
Yeah, which
He
is...
let a lot of stuff go. And if they change it, yeah, he's going to be in a lot of trouble.
But, as we talked about a little bit, and this sort of coincides, is that with the NBA stuff, is that the NBA has been going back to we're never going to get back to Heat Knicks in the 90s, right?
No.
WWE professional wrestling level basketball, but it seems like they're making it much more difficult on offenses in the NBA right now. They're letting teams be a little bit more physical and, a little more hand checking again. It's about other stuff.
Yeah,
Seems
I
like
mean,
it's back.
I watched E play for Purdue. His first move is to take his forearm and move you out of the way and go up.
Yeah.
That's his first move. And I didn't see called maybe once in 2 games.
No, I know. And that's what I'm saying. Like Edie and then, like you said, your big dude at NC State. They're both such big, powerful forces that, they get the wrong ref on the wrong night and all of a sudden they have 3 fouls at halftime and it's just a different game, which you hope we don't see. But
yeah, I mean, he had another game where I think one team fouled out 3 and one team fouled out 4.
Yeah.
So, I mean, depending on who's reffing and how they're calling things, but it could be really, really different.
Yeah, when you're those big guys with size, it's always a matter of, like, you're getting hacked every play and, like, how physical they let you return the favor on the other side is pretty much what it comes down, So.
Well, let's switch to the W for a minute.
Yeah.
Or the W, the women's bracket. I don't see Iowa making the Final Four. I just don't think they have enough depth, and I don't think they're tough enough. And when I look at LSU's not played well, but they're a lot tougher than Iowa.
Do you think any of this stuff with Kim and the Washington Post stuff and the defamation and all that is going to affect LSU at all, or do you think that'll help them?
I don't know. That team's got a lot of attitude.
And she seems to be.
They have to play UCLA, and UCLA is really a good team. They're the 2 seed. LSU's the 3 seed.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious. I didn't see UCLA enough to comment, but they're really good. I think the winner of that game goes to the Final Four.
Agreed. And I think, honestly, like, the way that she's come out as the coach, real fiery, yelling at the Washington Post, saying she's hired the story hasn't even come out yet.
But no, I know. And she's all over it.
But it's almost become like a me and us against the world type situation, like.
Yeah.
And again, we don't know what sort of bombs this person is planning on dropping in this article, but he's been working on it for 2 years. And it seems like he must have something, right?
2 years, I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah.
What are you waiting for?
Exactly.
And then, the Caitlin Clark thing, I like her and I think she's really good.
Mm-hmm.
But she's been on a real whine-a-thon lately.
Yeah, she's got a little Luca in her game.
Yeah, I don't like all the whining. I don't like all the begging and all the antics.
No, and she was doing that before too, because that was the whole thing with remember her and the LSU, Parker got into it, and Park,
Yeah, but I mean, it's the Holy Cross game, she was out of control.
Yeah.
Out of control. And I mean, I really didn't like it at all. I like Southern Cal. I think Southern Cal looks interesting. I like Stanford to survive without their best player in overtime and win. So there's some really good basketball on the women's side. I'll be watching tonight. It's the women's goes Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and the men's goes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, there's plenty of college basketball to be watched right now.
Plenty. So we'll see how all this goes. But I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. You want to hop over to? We sort of touched on it, but it looks like the NBA they tweaked the officiating a little bit. You can see
it. They go to the playoffs and anything goes.
Yeah, and it seems like the regular season is becoming. Maybe they're letting it be a little more like the playoffs. Because you've seen Steph struggle a little bit, and then speaking of Steph, LeBron, and then apparently the Houston Rockets, because the Rockets are 1 game behind Golden State for the 10th spot. And that's after losing.
And they're like 10-1 in their last 11 games.
Yeah, and that's after losing Şengün. And they've got Ike Edombe. They've got I can't pronounce that coach's name, but they have his attitude. And if you remember when he took over the Celtics were pretty bad for 2/3 of that season, and then something clicked, and they started playing very different basketball. And it almost seems like he had the same effect on the Rockets, and they are just on the come up right now. And
they're playing legit.
And it'd be pretty crazy if the Warriors did not make the playoffs, or the Lakers. The Lakers are they're 3.5 above the Rockets, so you feel like the Lakers are probably safe in that 9th seed.
And they scored 145 points last night.
Yeah, but they're both still. The Kings. the Suns and the Mavericks are still 3 games above the Lakers too. So the Lakers have a lot of ground to make up to get out of that ninth spot, but it looks like they're pretty safe. But like I said,
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be in the play-in.
Yeah, but
And with LeBron, I mean, that's what you're playing for. You're playing for a spot in the playoffs.
yeah,
So that's what you're playing for.
and that's
I did like the criticism of, I thought Kerr handled it well. If you thought playing Steph for 32 minutes instead of 30 was going to make a difference,
yeah.
there's just too many games to be played. We got to worry about how it all works out. An extra 2 minutes in one game might be a bad decision.
It might be. And he also, I mean, if they're going to go anywhere, someone has to step up and be able to, and be that second scorer, that second consistent scorer on that team. Like, you're never going to go all the way with just Steph.
No.
And Clay and Wiggins and all these guys that were very, very good in the last title run have just not been good. And
no, it seemed like one will have a great game and then disappear for 4 games and then have another great game.
yeah. And I mean, on the game-winning miss, I mean, you should be able to use Steph Curry as a decoy and get Klay Thompson a good shot. Klay Thompson should knock that shot down. That's who Klay Thompson had been for a decade of his career. You can't say that's a bad play call on Curry's part.
No.
Because you can't expect Steph to make everything. It just doesn't make any sense. But while we're talking NBA and Lakers and LeBron, I started...
podcast.
It's a podcast and it's also on YouTube, and I would recommend watching it on YouTube. It's JJ Redick and LeBron James sitting down talking basketball for 45 minutes to an hour at a time, and I think there's going to be 4 episodes. They've only released the first one so far. But I'll tell you, I have a couple thoughts on it. First off, if you're tired of the Stephen A. Skip Bayless screaming people heads, this is 2 men talking basketball and talking basketball in depth. And the cool thing is they are talking to basketball. They're really talking basketball. And they'll talk about the horns and they'll talk about pocket passes. But anytime they mention one of these things, it's probably something only a coach or a player would know, but it's really in the league. They show you an example on TV exactly what they're talking about. And then whenever they reference it later on in the podcast, it's almost like an appendix to a book. And across the bottom of the screen, it's like, this was the horns play we talked about earlier. It's when 2 players, you have 2 players at the key. And so it's really cool. Watching LeBron just talk in this format is the most I've liked LeBron in probably a decade. You can just see this is somebody that really knows basketball and absolutely loves basketball. And not that was ever in question, but he just comes off so real and so genuine in this one, and less media savvy LeBron and more just, a fun guy having a conversation about basketball.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think it's an odd pairing?
A little bit, yeah. But I mean, I think JJ Redick is a really knowledgeable basketball person.
I agree. I think they're both extremely knowledgeable. I just was commenting, I think it's an odd pairing.
Yeah, it's not one I would have predicted. LeBron brings 2 really nice bottles of wine because they're both wine people. And then they just sit down and have a conversation. And JJ Redick is usually taking notes so that he can bring it. Like I said, it feels like, a genuine listening conversation experience. And like in the first episode, they talked about basketball IQ. And LeBron mentions, Jokic. And who he loves basketball IQ wise and thinks one of the greatest minds in basketball?
Who?
Rajon Rondo.
Wow.
And talked about how they...
I did never guess that one.
Well, I mean, when you watch Rondo play, like, he did know what he was doing out there. He knew where to be, he knew where to go. He said when they were on that team together, he's like, you have 2 people out there when they won the title with such high basketball IQ, but that's one of the things that really separates you once you get to, like, the final 8, final 4 of the season. That it's the players that can just do everything. And he mentioned, different levels of basketball IQ, the people that see the court in ways other people can't see it. But he talked about, there are NBA players today that if you run a play to the right side in practice and LeBron is coming up the court and he's like, let's flip it to the left because they're not going to be ready for it. That there's a number of men in the NBA that don't know how to flip a play in their mind on the fly, which, I guess isn't shocking, but I thought it was something, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised because I just don't think, I watch a lot of basketball and I just don't see a lot of good plays and good fundamentals. So I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah.
But I am seeing now, the point they made during the tournament so far, going back to college, just but staying with basketball, is that the players are around longer. They're better players. They're better developed. NIL and transfer portal and a chance to go out on a winner is impacting the quality of play, and I like it.
Yeah.
And I saw Calipari whining because he's saying that he's been playing these one and done things. Now he's got to adjust and start playing with older players.
Mm-hmm.
But the announcer pointed out that a couple of years ago, Calipari had a team with a 24-year-old and 25-year-old. So it said it's not like he didn't have these guys before. I mean, but it is a different way of playing.
It is a different way of playing. But, I mean, adjusting we'll get into it a little bit when we get to our Deion Sanders story later, but a lot of it is just very egotistical people having to adjust to a power shift and a power dynamic shift, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to be dictators of their own lives and their own sport anymore. Like that's just
it's free agency. Right. So if let's say your team goes to, let's look at LSU's women.
Yeah,
they needed a point guard. They get the point guard that was on Louisville last year. You went out, bought a point guard, brought her in. Now you're fighting for another national championship.
Yeah.
So you're able to adjust, at least in basketball, because there's only 5 players on the court.
Right.
You're able to go out and shop for and I don't like using the word free agent, but that's what it is.
That's what it is.
You're allowed to go out and shop for the best free agent, and you can immediately impact your team.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And the last thing I thought was cool about LeBron, like they did talk about his keys to being great at basketball. He did mention the history of the game and appreciating all the people that got you to where you are today. And speaking of free agency, they brought up Oscar Robinson, who had a 6-year lawsuit to eventually bring free agency to the NBA. And, how impactful that has been for so many people and so much money that people have made over the years for sacrifices that guys before them have come, And that is typically, an old head thing to talk about, right? But at the same time, that's really important. It's important to know why you get to do what you do.
But it also shows why LeBron's so well respected by the players that came before him.
Yeah.
They appreciate him. They appreciate his attitude. They appreciate who he is.
And he and JJ both also talked about, you don't have as many, you have far fewer guys you think that are really willing to make all the sacrifices, and that all the times they have to go to their family and apologize and I know you guys are making all these to their children and to their wives, and because I do have to wake up at 5 every morning every day. I have to go get treatment every day. I have to take a nap every day. I have to go to bed at the same time every day. And he's like, and I know that affects my family, and talking about it's the the two-bladed sword, the double-edged sword situation where it's to be great, this is what I need to do. But I know I am sacrificing wonderful things in my life in order for me to accomplish what I need to accomplish. So.
Okay, people can find us where? Just on YouTube?
Just on YouTube, yeah. I think there's a podcast on Apple, but like I said, I think even someone like me that has played and watched a lot of basketball, I appreciated getting to watch them demonstrate when they're talking about horns, when they're demonstrating, different forms of passing and how people come off screens. Again, you're going to get a real insight into real basketball, which is very cool.
And does it have a name, or just Google LeBron and JJ Redick?
Just put LeBron, JJ Redick in YouTube and you'll be right there. Yeah.
All right.
That's probably the easiest way. Because I forget what the name is exactly, but even when I looked it up, it's probably easier to just type in LeBron, JJ, and you'll be right there.
Okay. Now, I don't know if the press conference has already happened yet, but I want to switch gears and go to our Ohtani moment.
Yeah.
And so we got 3 possibilities here.
Okay. Let's lay them out.
One is that this assistant, who was the interpreter and his chauffeur and his companion and his game player and everything else, did all this on his own and moved things himself.
Correct.
Right. Second scenario is all those things happened, and he goes to Ohtani and said, I have a problem, and Ohtani paid off the gambling debts. The third, and if you understand the Japanese culture of falling on your sword, is that Ohtani made all the bets, and this guy's falling on his sword protecting Ohtani.
Yes.
So that's the 3 scenarios. I honestly don't have one I think is the right one, other than the fact that when the second one was explained, Ohtani's camp immediately came out and said it wasn't true, and they wanted an investigation, they wanted him arrested, they wanted him fired and sued and everything else.
Yes.
But that was a reaction. That wasn't, that was a reaction to what was said. When you let it go for 24 hours, I think it was 24 hours. But, you could have, I just don't know. And, we know enough now to know that not everyone is as forthcoming as they can be. And we also know that, crisis control firms and PR firms are going to spend things and outright lie.
Oh yeah.
To protect their client. And in this case, you have arguably the most important player in Major League Baseball.
Arguably, yeah, with almost inarguably, yeah.
Yeah. And so you're going to go to greater lengths to protect him because if it's true, if the third scenario is the truth, you got a major problem.
You do. I mean, the somewhat, silver linings are it doesn't appear anybody bet on baseball throughout this entire time, right?
Right.
So, I mean, you avoid this, that he was Chicago Black Sox or Pete Rose or betting on, you sort of avoid that scandal of it. I guess in my glass half full defending Ohtani would be when you look at the way he's done his contracts, right? And pushing money further down the road and everything else. It doesn't sound like somebody with a gambling problem necessarily, right?
No, it doesn't sound like a gambling problem. It also doesn't sound like he's got $5 million just to throw around.
No, it sounds, and it doesn't, I mean, and again, we have less, as amazing as on the floor, because he doesn't speak English in interviews and he doesn't have an interpreter for the most part. Like, we probably have less of a feeling of who Ohtani is than probably most other superstars, right?
We do, and that's a catch-22.
Right.
Because if he could speak his own mind, then he's not at the mercy of somebody else.
Exactly.
I mean, like I've been watching Shogun, and we talked about this in our entertainment moment.
Yeah.
And so obviously in the Shogun, what did he say? Because you're relying on somebody to communicate what you said, yet when I say it, you don't understand what I said. You hope that what you said was what I asked you to say, but you don't know.
Right, exactly.
Just like when Ohtani's sitting at a press conference and he answers the question in Japanese to the other guy, you hope what he says is what Ohtani said, but you don't know.
Yeah, you don't. It's true. And obviously, like you said, because he is so important to baseball and the world of sports, and he's just also an incredible athlete to watch, like, you just don't want it to be scenario 3.
No, you really don't.
And
you really want it to be scenario 1, but we don't think it's scenario 1 either.
No, yeah.
I think scenario 2 is probably the most accurate.
Well, you have to. I mean, he's been this.
He just tried to backpedal it because.
Yeah.
If Ohtani made the payment directly,
then it's going to look bad on him. Yeah.
Then it's a bad issue.
But this was his interpreter for 7 seasons?
Yeah, ever since he's been there.
Ever since he's been. So I mean, this is somebody who you have to assume if he didn't enjoy this person's company on some level, they would have found another interpreter. So
absolutely.
You have to assume that, like I said, this could be a situation. I mean, it could be the situation where he bailed out his friend, but his PR team is, and again, I feel like if he heard that story from Ohtani, if that was possible, I think you would have a lot more empathy and maybe you could get out of it. I don't know.
I don't know either. But interesting stuff. This is a story to follow. And so the press conference is supposed to be sometime today. And it's only noon on the West Coast, so I bet it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, it's true. Deion Sanders, going back to college stuff, and this is another fun story. He was talking about Hunter and his son Shredder, who I think presumably if you watch a lot of mock drafts for next year, and we're not even through this draft, but are top 10 players, right? Shredder Saunders might be the number 1 quarterback in the class, and Travis Hunt, I mean, he might be the best player in the draft. He plays both. He might be the best wide receiver and the best defensive back coming out.
Yeah. And it's Shedeur.
Shedeur, yeah.
That's how I pronounce it. And, we were talking before. I mean, we've seen all the quarterbacks come out this year. So you and I both have to assume that if he's not 1, he's 1A, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think they put him somewhere in the top. I think he was in the conversation for the best, potentially behind
Caleb Williams.
Behind Caleb Williams.
And then that season just went south.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at October, yeah, he was definitely 1A in October.
Oh, yeah.
And then the team went south.
Went completely
so
south.
we'll have to see. Because that's what, Caleb Williams did not have a great year, but Southern Cal did not have the year that everybody expected Southern Cal to have.
No. But we're bringing this up because Deion Sanders said that because, these are basically his two sons, that if they're in the draft, they will pull an Eli if he doesn't feel like these are the right cities for his two kids. And even though Travis Hunter is more of his adopted, through being coached. And I know the people that don't like NIL, they didn't like Marvin Harrison not even having a pro day. Caleb Williams not really participating in the combine. Like, there's a lot of, there's a lot of player empowerment happening right now.
Yeah, I mean, but if I'm a player now, like if I'm Caleb Williams and I really didn't want to go to Chicago, I'd have probably made noise by going back to Southern Cal.
Yeah.
But he obviously doesn't have a problem with it.
No. Well, I mean, the Bears are, between what they've done on the offensive line, having the 9th pick besides him, plus DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, now Keenan Allen, like, you're at a really nice spot.
Yeah, you've made a commitment. Now, if you're the Jets, or if you're the Commanders, or if you're the Panthers, I might have an issue. Yeah, I might not want my son to go there either.
No. And again, you look at the Bears, this is...
Or the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And we have the Cardinals to that list.
Here, this will be our Steeler moment. As we hope Justin Fields ends up being the quarterback of the Steelers' future. But you look at the situation Justin Fields went into. He was drafted to a Bears organization with seemingly no plan. They put no pieces around him. They changed coaches, changed offensive coordinators. And it seems like now this new GM and new coach know what they're doing, and they're putting Caleb in a really good position. But if I was going to go into the situation Justin Fields went in 3 years ago, like, I get why I would say, no, I'm good. I don't want to go to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't have any talent around me. You don't seem to have a plan in place. You don't have an offense that fits my style. Like, yeah. And I know, people are going to get mad and angry about it, but, it's what it is. And the last bit of our Steeler moment is they signed Quez Watkins, who I'm not sure will make the team, and they just signed Kyle Allen to be the 3rd-string quarterback.
Who's Kyle Allen?
He played for the Bills and the Texans.
Oh, okay.
He's like 28 years old, and he played for Carolina. So
it means they're not going to probably take a pick in the draft, but they might send a free agent.
Yeah, I don't think they're counting on a pick, but I think if like Cam Thomas, the Florida State guy, who is everybody's like late round sleeper guy they love because he looked really good before he got hurt, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think if he's there in the 6th or 7th round, I think you jump on him no matter who you are, because he looks at the very least like a good career backup.
All right, I've got my marketing idea for the man.
Okay.
All right, so I've been at night I've been watching some comedy movies before I go to bed.
Yes.
And the other night I watched Night Shift, which was absolutely hysterical. And I hadn't seen it in a long time. And I couldn't believe how well it held up and how funny Michael Keaton was in his first movie. So the last 2 nights I watched Beverly Hills Cop 1 and Beverly Hills Cop 2.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, in Beverly Hills Cop 2, when Eddie Murphy comes out wearing that Lions jacket, I think Axel Foley should be my mascot for the year. He should be in my marketing campaign for the Lions.
Okay.
I would use Eddie Murphy in the Axel Foley role and sell some merch and have some fun. Because there's going to be a lot of pressure on the team, and I think a campaign like that would help alleviate some of the pressure, making it a little fun. And I also think that coach can pull it off. And
also in completely non-shocking news, there is news that there is going to be a Beverly Hills Cop now. With Eddie Murphy.
Cop 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Michael Keaton is in Beetlejuice, which I just watched a trailer for this morning.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do that one. I could probably, Beverly Hills Cop 2 was okay.
Yeah, 2 was good.
Beverly Hills Cop 1. I haven't seen 3 yet, I don't think.
I can't remember 3. It's very forgettable if I ever did see it. But those are really good movies, so that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, entertainment moment, I've been watching Shogun, which I've talked about.
Yes.
I've been watching Manhunt about the Lincoln assassination with John Wilkes Booth. I think is very good. I watched the John Cena movie, Ricky Stenicki, which I know you're not a fan of his acting.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, as a throwaway, just to laugh and have a few kicks, I thought it was okay.
Yeah, for a free movie on Amazon Prime, it wasn't terrible.
Yeah, I wouldn't pay for it, but I didn't have to pay for it. I thought the premise was a cool premise.
Okay.
That you made up this guy for all these years, and now you had a chance. It now doesn't make sense that he wouldn't be there for this event if this is one of your best friends, like you said. So now you need to create him, and I thought that was all legit. I thought the part about him being this, hard rock Ron,
Yeah.
I think that was a little bit over the top with all the jerk off songs. I thought that took away from it.
Yeah, I mean, it had its, yeah, but they were like trying to just, throw stuff at a wall. I'm sure 3 a.m. in a writer's room, it sounded really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything for you?
We watched Apples Don't Fall.
Okay.
The 7-part Peacock, somebody murdered, let's have a lot of flashbacks and show everybody where they were each day and everything else. I'm not going to... It's okay, is what I'll say.
Okay.
I was going to compare it to something, but if I compare it to something, I'm going to give away whatever there is to give away, and I don't want to do that. I don't think you'll be disappointed in it. It's got really good people, good acting, but there's this thing in video games right now where things keep getting 7s out of 10s, and they say we're swimming in 7s, which I think I brought up on this podcast before. But that's how I feel like that show is. Like, it's not bad by any stretch. When we were talking about entertainment moments, I was like, well, I watched it, and I was like, did I even like it? I don't even remember what happened. And it took me, and that's something I watched last week, and that could be a sign of aging, I don't know, but it also was just a sign of, like, it's fine,
Yeah.
It's a chain restaurant meal, I guess, in TV form. Nothing you're going to write home about.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I had higher hopes for it. Like, I thought it was going to be a little bit better than it was, but, what can you do?
You get a food moment?
Do we have a food moment? I think I mentioned this before, but just because we had it for lunch today. We got I know I keep shouting out Costco, but they sell a birria, which is the shredded beef and like the spicy tomato sauce.
Uh-huh.
And the one they sell in the Costco is really good. It's just in the meat section, and you just, you heat it up for like 12 minutes. You throw some tortillas on the stove, and then you make your own little like birria tacos, and it's got really good flavor. I don't know. Yeah,
Okay.
it's good. Yeah.
Well, I'll give you. I'm going to have my food moment Thursday.
Okay.
I'm going to be in Boston, and I'm going to go to Carmelina's. You remember Carmelina's when we lived in Massachusetts?
I do remember Carmelina's. Yeah.
It was in Hadley then.
Yeah.
Now it's in Boston. Now it's on Hanover Street in Boston.
Oh, wow. They moved up in the world.
I've got lunch reservations on Thursday, and Mom's going to order Crazy Alfredo, which was their specialty.
Okay.
The spicy Alfredo with chicken.
Yeah.
And I'm going to order Sunday gravy, which has a short rib, a piece of sausage, and a meatball.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's a great place. And then I'll be going to my favorite Mike's Pastry for dessert and chocolate chip cookie. It's the best chocolate chip cookie I've ever had.
That's pretty high praise right there.
It's very high praise.
Oh, I did have a food moment. I was picking up bayadas from Maria at this little Spanish place, and there's an Italian bakery next door called Angelo Bracco, which always wins all the awards in New Orleans.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
I've always thought it was a little bit overrated, but I got this vanilla cream-filled like cream puff where it was cut in half with like some hard chocolate on top and a vanilla cream, and it was outstanding. I have to give them credit.
Okay.
Yeah, I've still never had their gelato, which apparently is what they do best. But
that place has been around for forever, right?
yeah, and it felt like every city, every town I made listening, like there's the places everybody knows because they're on Travel Network and Travel Channel, but usually locals are like, it may have been good at one point, but now it's become something else. And I had sort of lumped them into that. But like I said, I would go back today and get another one if it wasn't a cheat day. It was a cheat day.
Okay.
'Cause it was that good. And now I want to try an eclair as well. So, yeah.
All right.
And it usually has a line out the door, but I was there at 11 in the morning getting the bayada, so it was easy to walk in and grab some stuff.
Cool.
But it did have me wondering. This will be the end of our podcast, and this is more of a social. Maybe we get some people respond. But you go to a bakery. The person puts your 2 or 3 things in your box for you. They use the string there, so I guess there's a little bit more effort. Do you tip in that situation?
I do, yeah.
I have been, but I kind of feel like on some level, I do feel like the old people now, where I'm just like, well, you're not baking it for me. You're literally just paid to put it in the box. That's what your actual job is, and now I'm giving you extra money on top of pastry money for that.
Well, okay, give you an example. I went to 19th hole donut shop yesterday because I wanted to get Mom some apple fritters.
Okay.
And I got the apple fritters, and I get some sugar twists, which I love. And then I always like their angel cream, which is the white cream in a donut with chocolate icing.
Oh, that's a good cream. That's a good donut. Yeah.
And they didn't have any. And she goes, well, let me go in the back. And so I go in the back, and she had taken one of the angel creams that didn't have icing and iced it in chocolate for me.
Well, that's next level. I mean, like I said,
That is next level.
Yeah.
But I mean, so I was going to tip anyhow. That just made my tip better.
Of course, yeah. And like I said, I do tip, but I do understand where it does feel like everywhere we're going lately, like it's like, tip, 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 and it just sort of feels
Well,
like
I'm getting tips from the hospital says, hey, you had great service, or do you want to tip?
at the
It's
hospital.
a freaking hospital. I'm not tipping a hospital.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, you get an opportunity now everywhere to tip and add to it. And I'm just not, there's certain things I'm not going to do. But
Yeah.
it's a food service, and I know that people aren't getting the wage that I think they should get.
Right.
I'm always going to tip. And I'm going to tip if I'll always tip 15 unless it's really bad. And then I'll always go at least 20 if I really like them.
No, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will talk to you guys next week.
Yep. Enjoy the Sweet 16 this week.